Does anyone else ever think about how amazing and the significance of the absolute massive population of Muslims in Detroit and the greater Detroit area? Not only for the concept of America being a melting pot and the cultural diversity, religious diversity, and also like socio-political diversity that it brings to our state and to our country as a whole, but also the possible spiritual significance that it might have. Now, if you're somebody who just believes that coincidences exist in the world, this is not going to mean anything to you. You're going to brush it off. But for me, I don't believe in coincidences. When I was a Christian, I didn't believe in coincidences. When I was non-religious, I didn't believe in coincidences. And now as a Muslim, I still do not believe in coincidences. I believe that when you see connections in the world, that everything is a sign from Allah. And this is literally not something that I even made the connection on or even had a thought about until last night when I was at work. One of the delivery drivers came in, because I work at an American food halal restaurant that's open late night. So we do deliveries through the different delivery apps. And one of the drivers came in, she was waiting for the order, and she was talking to me about my hand tattoos. She had hand tattoos, but all of hers are fine lines. So she had one that came down her finger and it fell out at the knuckle. And I was just kind of talking to her about the difference between, she had fine line tattoos. All of my tattoos are based off of the American traditional style. So you can see the thicker lines. And that's first off because I like the thicker lines, and second off because I don't like the idea of fallout. So the thicker your lines are, the less likely you are to have fallout in your tattoo. And she was complimenting, she was like, wow, your knuckle tattoos, your hand tattoos, they look so new, they've got to be new. And I was like, no, actually, my knuckle tattoos are 4 years old, my hand tattoo is 5 years old. And then I was like, but I do have a new tattoo right here. And I showed her my 313 tattoo. And I was just kind of explaining to her, you can, if you look really, really closely, you might not be able to see on camera, but you can see that there is some fallout just from bringing my sleeves up and down, washing my hands at work a lot. And I was like, it just kind of it happens in high traffic areas. And I was giving her advice for when she gets her her knuckle tattoo redone on how to maintain it. And she was like, oh, are you from Detroit? And I just kind of laughed, because that's when I realized the connection that the Detroit area might possibly have with the Muslim community outside of all of us living there. I don't live in Detroit. I live in Kalamazoo. I'm actually from the other side of the state from Detroit. I'm from Southwest Michigan. Detroit is all the way on the east side. But for literally the last day, I've been thinking about how crazy it is that so many Muslims live in the 313, live in the Detroit area. And I feel like there are a lot of Muslims who aren't going to realize what I'm saying, so I'm going to explain it, because I've shown a lot of Muslims my tattoo, talked about it, when it was healing, I had plastic on it, people asked while I was at work, my friends and stuff, and I'd show it to them, and they would not know what it means. They did not understand the significance of the number 313, and maybe, Shia are more likely to realize the significance of this number than Sunni, but it is important in Islamic history regardless as to what sect you belong to. So the number 313 shows up quite a few times in the history of Abrahamic religions in general, but specifically Islam. To give a couple of examples off the top of my head, when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, went to the Battle of Badr, that he brought 313 men. That was the size of his army, 313. If you want to look farther back into Abrahamic history in general, when David, before he was king, went to fight Goliath, when they were approaching the enemy army, right? The men saw the size of the army, saw Goliath, who was a giant, and all of them retreated except for 313. And then the reason that this number is more known by Shia, specifically Shia Muslims, but I feel like there are Sunnis who also believe this, I'm not for sure, but when Imam Mehdi comes back, he will choose 313 of the most pious Muslims on earth to lead his army, right? In the end times, 313 of the most pious Muslims will lead his army. Some believe that these will all be men. Some believe that 60 of these will be women. Part of the reason that I train so hard in the gym, because if 60 of them are going to be women, I'm going to be in those numbers. And honestly, it's not uncommon for Shia who have tattoos throughout the world to have a 313 tattoo, though usually it is in Arabic, and it's usually seen along with the Prophet's sword, the double-pointed sword, that you see a lot of Shia will wear on their necklace. And even just not Shia in general, like Sunni and other sects also will have symbols of this sword because it's like the Prophet's most powerful sword. It's the most powerful sword. From what I know, the most powerful sword in existence. And I feel like this tattoo is most commonly seen, or most commonly like reported in media to be seen on the Shia H group in a certain country that has been kicking some major butt lately. They're pretty much known for having a 313 tattoo as a representation of their, you know, their assumed religious piety when it comes to being soldiers. But anyways, back to the point. Like I said, I do not believe in coincidences, and I do not believe that it is a coincidence that the place in America where the area code is literally 313, people refer to it as the 313, people who are not Muslim know that this area is the 313, is where we have one of the largest hubs of Muslims in the country. Literally, you go through Dearborn Heights, Sterling Heights, Hamtramck, and it's like being in the Middle East. Like, the street signs are literally in Arabic. There are masjids everywhere. Every single restaurant is halal. Like, you can't walk down the street without seeing, you know, hijabis, niqabis, without seeing, you know, abaya shops, without seeing, you know, pretty much every single store being tailored to Middle Eastern cuisine, Middle Eastern goods, Middle Eastern products, Middle Eastern services. All of it is catered to the Muslim community. It is literally like a little Middle East in America. And genuinely, in the last 24 hours, that has sparked such a like hyperfixation in me about learning the history of the Muslim community in America, in Michigan, specifically in the Detroit area. And I'm gonna start doing like a ton of research as to how that happened, when it happened, because I know it was just a few generations ago that it really started like building up a Muslim community in that area. And I'm genuinely so interested because I want to see if there's like any other little tidbits, any other little signs showing like that Muslims are going to be here, like the 313 in the area code. Like I said, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that everything is part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan. So like being able to spot these things and pick these little things out makes me so excited, because it's like, it makes me feel like my eyes are open a little bit, a tiny bit. And you can call me crazy if you don't believe me or whatever, but for me, I genuinely believe that everything is a sign. I don't believe that things just happen randomly. So I don't know, fun little tidbit for everybody.